Welcome to Catch You Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modies. This podcast is about living and playing in the great outdoors, especially down this way in the most southern region of the continental U.S., the Florida Keys. Catch You Outdoors is hosted by Spotify and also brought to you by your favorite podcast network or networks. So kick back and get a taste of my Florida. This week's episode of Catch You Outdoors is number 110, titled More Random Thoughts. Yep, I got one of those, the pad full of stuff, so that's where that usually comes from. So, happy Tuesday to you. You'd be listening to this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, so happy Tuesday. Sunday where I am, Sunday late afternoon actually. A lot of things to do this morning, piddling around the house a bit, so I finally got to the podcast. Let's start with the fishing report. That's usually what I do. It's really tough this past week. I'm lucky to be living on Largo Sound, though, which is a fairly protected body of water. The winds this week have been horrendous. 9-foot seas. That's just the beginning. We had gale force winds on one day. Winds blew at gusts of 30 a great deal of time, 15, 20 with gusts of 30. It was crazy. My allergies kicked up worse than ever. It seems the mangrove, palm trees, and everything now are pushing pollen out. As a matter of fact, on one of the trips on the water, we saw huge strings of pollen on top of the surface. So now I know why my nose has been itching. Yeah, gust of 30. Yeah, that's really fun. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, or at the end of the channel, I should say. Because we live on Largo Sound, and because we live on that body of water, we are protected from the Atlantic Ocean with these east to southeast winds. And I know it sounds kind of strange. These are not due south winds. This is more easterly. And if you look at how Key Largo is situated, I've said this before, we are more of a northeast, southeast island. We are not due east-west, so the wind does not come directly out of the south on top of us across the Atlantic. It comes from more of an easterly to, I guess northeasterly, I should say, not south, northeasterly direction. Anyway, when it blows, we can hide in Largo Sound somewhat, and we can hide in all the feeder creeks that feed in and out of there. So I did get on the water with my buddy Gary early in the week, despite the wind forecast, and I had to because he left today, Sunday, and I had to get one more day on the water with him before he returned to the below freezing temperatures in Kentucky. Lordy. It's going to be 27 when he arrives there on Monday. No way. He's leaving 84, 85 today, 87 in the well, and we won't get that today. It's been raining today and overcast, so but he's going home to 27. He and Cindy. I'm sorry, y'all. I really am. And not even tongue in cheek. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry you have to go through that. Cindy's got a real nice tan. She's been lying out by the pool every day, so she's toasty brown now. All that's going to go away. But she knows it. She admitted it. She goes, yeah, but it'll be fun while it lasts. So we hit the small waterways that lead out of Largo Sound and managed to catch a few small snappers, some grunts, a weird and unusual fish, of course, along the mangrove. We got a pretty big patch of cudas on a flat in the Sound. Okay, it wasn't the best, but it was time on the water with a good friend despite the conditions, and that's how we both feel about it, to tell you the truth. We caught fish. We had plenty of tugging on the end of the line, so that's okay, but it was not exactly what we had hoped for, being able to travel out onto Florida Bay and up into the Everglades area, and that was absolutely out of the question. All week. It was a wreck back over there, so on Friday, Janelle and I were really happy to have Brenda and Laura come down from Minnesota. Actually, they're in Cape Coral. They have a place in Cape Coral. So they're home in Minnesota and a home in Cape Coral, and they came over to visit for the weekend, which was great. We planned this out for a long time ago, actually. They got thwarted from coming another time because I think it was a hurricane. I think a tropical storm was coming, and they had to go home. So anyway, they finally made it. Great to see them. Former charter customers of mine and now friends. And as I like to point out, that happens. Yep, quite a lot actually in this business. I've been retired from charter fishing for almost 9 years now, and I still see and hear from past customers that have turned friend. and friends, and I really enjoy it. So I was happy to see them. Hugs all around. It was great. Took them fishing on a very windy Saturday yesterday. Still there, baby. Let me tell you, with the same results as with Gary, but they said they were just happy to finally get back on the water with me and just to get out on the water, period. They just hadn't done it in a long time, and that was nice. They got the grand tour of the protected waters near our house, of course. Caught a few fish. Had a wild ride across the sound to get home. Took them out the Pennicamp Channel, the South Channel, they call it, South Key Largo Channel, and got a good look at the ocean. It was pretty wild because of the wind direction. The wind was coming kind of off the left as you went to the pass. So they got a few photos of the Atlantic Ocean that were really eerie looking. You got this ocean in front of you, and you can see the waves that way out in the distance. You can see the white edge of the crest of the water. But where we were, it was fairly calm because we were protected by a fairly large island on our left-hand side at the end of that channel. And so they got some cool pictures, but we weren't about to venture out there. That was out of the question. Man, oh man, I can't wait for this wind to stop blowing. I am not kidding you. We still got a breeze today. Supposedly Monday it's going to slow down a little bit. There's tropical weirdness everywhere. We've got something to the right of us that's supposed to move on up the coast in a way. We have something below us that they're kind of keeping an eye. We're almost in November, and this stuff is just going on and on and on. And this combination of high pressure from up north, the fronts are finally coming down, mixed with this low stuff that's happening around us, is just creating compression, if you will, in the atmosphere. And so we get wind spinning one way, they get squeezed, which increases the wind, and we just, it's crazy. It's really, I drove my Jeep to Fort Myers this week, in the middle of the week. Is that right? Yeah, I'm losing track here. I was blowing my Jeep all over the road. Really, that's the one thing about a Jeep. They're great fun, but they're a box. And when the wind blows, you kind of wind up all over the place. And I'm like, man, I could really feel the wind driving the Jeep. I'll tell you that. So let's see, what's next on the list? Oh, the new book's in process. It got put aside because of the guests, all the people that have been coming and going here, which is great. That's fine. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of work into it this week, and I'm sure going to be it's going to be quiet around here now. Don't worry, I'm getting to it. I promise. I'm on the last chapter. I about got it done, and then comes the rewrites and formatting and all that fun stuff. Finding photos to stick into it. I do want to make it not a photo book, but I want to add a whole bunch of photos to it. So. And last week I dropped a hint on another project. More info about that soon, but not now. As I said last week and the week, that's taking a little time too. I'm excited about it, and it looks like Monday's going to be the day that I'm going to get real involved, and I'll be able to tell you more about it. I'm excited about it. It's totally different. Okay, on this week's subject, more random thoughts. Once again, that notebook of mine had a bunch of ideas on it, so it's time to turn several filled pages into empty pages so I can add more stuff as I go along. And like I said, I walk by my upstairs office. I'll be watching TV. Something will pop into my head, and I run up here and I scribble it down on the pad, and then off I go. And in most cases, it's just not enough to do an entire podcast with. So it stays on the pad unless I think of something to add to it. And it usually winds up being random thoughts. And I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm like, okay, let's flesh out the pad. So let's see here. Fantasy Fest. Well, Fantasy Fest. It's come and gone. Last night was a big parade night. I've noticed it seems to have become a bit more civilized, sort of. There's still a good bit of adult-only nudity type stuff, a mess of drinking and partying, but the parades have become quite a visual spectacle now with kind of almost like down in Rio, with lots of feathers and glitz and glamour and that kind of stuff. Spectacular, actually. A lot of work and trouble is going into these costumes, especially the parade stuff. So the last 4 days or so have been pretty incredible. If you get a chance, go on Facebook and just get into Key West and look up Fantasy Fest. And I'm sure that all the pictures have been posted now, pretty much, of all the different events that happen. And there's lots of contests. There's lots of costume contests. And it's themed, so you have to kind of stay within the bounds if you hope to win. But pretty cool. I've been there. I've done that. I'm too old for it now. Maybe. I don't know. However, if you get a chance to go and experience it, do. But you want to it's 10 days now with all kinds of events and things going on. The last 4 days will give you a huge taste of what's happening. So if you've never been, you don't want to stay for 10 days, you can escape for a week to 10. You can't do that. So if you can do 4 days, do the last 4 days of Fantasy Fest. It's filtered around Halloween. This case, it ended a few days ahead of it. Sometimes it'll land right on it, but most of the time it's just ahead of Thanksgiving, right? Halloween. So book now, honestly, or within the next month. If you're really thinking about it, the hotel rooms, pretty much these people that are addicted to it or in it or part of it, they will generally turn right around and just book for next year already. So, and Key West ain't that big a place, and it doesn't have that many rooms. So keep that in mind. A lot of people book all the way up into Marathon because it doesn't cost as much money. That's a 50-mile drive south, however. So you got to keep that in mind. That's about 50 miles above on the islands coming up from Key West. So, but think ahead. I might have mentioned this in passing on a previous podcast, but in relation to Fantasy Fest, Halloween is a fairly big deal in the Keys. People decorate like Christmas in other places. I mean, it's wild. And our neighborhood seems to be a leader in that. And from what I've heard, it's recognized as one of those neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, this neighborhood is widely known as a place to take your kids trick-or-treating. I'm not sure when all this started. I've asked a few questions, but everybody's like, well, I don't know. It's been going on quite a while kind of answer. But here's what I've learned so far. The neighborhood goes all out on the decorations, all out. Giant skeletons, little skeletons, lights in the trees, animated objects that jump out, just crazy stuff. Lots of spiders, spider webs, and eerie lighting, eerie music too. The kids do not go door to door, but instead the adults sit at the end of driveways with chairs, tables, candy, creepy music, creepy lights, whatever, dressed up in some cases, and greet the kids as they pass by on the street, which I happen to think is really, really cool. And we wondered what was up last year. Janelle and I got some candy, put it in a bowl by the front door inside, and waited for knocks on the door, and nothing happened. And we thought, well, this neighborhood's full of kids. What's going on? So I wandered out to the street and discovered that the kids were all out there. They just don't come to the door. They walk up and down the street and collect from the tables and the couples and the families sitting at the end of the driveways, and the adults party, and they talk, and they carry on, that kind of stuff. So it's an outdoor event, plain and simple, not go door to door. This is really neat because, in my mind, falling over obstacles is eliminated between houses. It's tough when you're a kid. You got a mask on your head, can't see where you're going. But besides that, it was really, really cool how all of the parents kind of get together in on this too. And parents traveling with the kids are also given treats at certain stops. Not quite so much on weeknights, I was told. So this is a weeknight Halloween. On Saturdays, Friday night and Saturday night Halloweens, I've been told look out because it's really funny. What happens is the neighbors all make drinks for the other neighbors, and they make shots, and they make Jell-O shots, and they pass those out. So you basically, if you live in the neighborhood, you're going to have to walk directly home. And if you drive, you're going to need a designated driver to get you back to wherever you came from. Hey, I'm just telling you what I heard. Our neighborhood has become very popular, so that kids are brought in pickup trucks and vans from all areas of Key Largo. I don't know. We're a big hit. I'm not sure, how it happened, but so this year I went to Publix and I stocked up on the rather oversized large bags of assorted candies. Those are good to throw in the bowl, let the kids grab a few or throw a few in a bag. So we're prepared this year. We'll be ready to sit out at the end of the street on Tuesday, and I'll let you know how it goes on the next podcast. I'm actually kind of excited about it. It's fun. Next on the holiday list is Thanksgiving, and with that comes my birthday on the 21st of November. Holy moly. It's a big one. I'm going to be 70. Good grief. That's old. That's old in anybody's book. I don't know. I don't feel 70. At least I don't think so. At least not until right when I wake up in the morning. I'm trying to get out of bed. That's when it kind of kicks in. So, But all in all, time marches on, right? Yeah. I'm still glad to be alive, heck, and enjoying it. There are limitations, but I'm doing my best to work around those. The object now is not to fall down or visit the hospital between checkups, because they ask you if that happened, and I like to be able to say no. As of now, there are no big plans for either of those dates. I'm guessing we'll do the boating thing since it's a Tuesday, that my birthday is. And if I can get Jonelle away from work, that is. And then later we're planning on attending the garden party at singer Billy Davidson's house. Billy lives down the street from us. He's formerly of the Case and Davidson duo who sang a lot down at the Lorelei, which we started listening to back in the 90s. And he has this garden party and invites neighbors and folks he knows to go to it. And the first session happens to be on my birthday. So we're going to include that, obviously. There aren't any plans for Thanksgiving right now. Most likely here at the house, or we'll travel to my mom's in Fort Myers. I'm really not sure what's going on yet. It's too early. My family's kind of last minute planning, but whatever happens, happens. So, I actually will enjoy a shift away from seafood. I know this sounds crazy. Anybody that listens that's dying to have seafood, we have a lot. And I think it's kind of great when you roll into Thanksgiving and you do turkey and ham and stuff like that, especially turkey. I love turkey. Eat lots of it, along with mashed potatoes and green beans and what else, breads and perhaps pie, not pumpkin pie. I don't like pumpkin pie. Key lime pie, yeah. Okay, I'll do that part. That's as close to the fish part as I'll do. We'll do key lime pie. Years ago, I don't know if y'all remember, well, I'm sure most of you remember this, seemed to be a craze or a fad about deep frying a turkey. And then you just don't hear about it much anymore. Everyone ran out to, in my case, Bass Pro had them, these great big fryer buckets, if you will, ran on propane. And you got to put in a whole mess of oil, and then you get your turkey all ready to go. Usually you injected it with something yummy. We use like a Cajun spicy stuff. Then you dunk it in the oil carefully, very carefully, so you don't set the patio on fire. And you don't dare do it on inside. And it takes about 35 minutes to cook a 10-pound turkey. Nice and roasty on the outside, beautiful color. Nice and juicy on the inside. The only thing I can figure is the reason you don't hear much about it is just the cost of oil. It takes the one that we had, which we no longer have, I think it was 32 quart or 40 quart, I forget. But it took 3 or 4 gallons to fry a 10-pound to 12-pound turkey. And a gallon of oil now is $9.95 to $12.95 for like peanut. No, the regular oil. If you start to get into peanut or avocado, it costs a whole lot more than that. So it could cost you like $50 to $60 to fill one of those things up with oil and then bring the oil to temperature. And you could save the oil for other cooking, but nobody ever really did that. I mean, you could cool it and pour it back into a bottle and refrigerate it, I guess. But what a pain in the butt. And that takes a lot of room in a refrigerator. So I'm guessing maybe that's why we don't hear about it anymore, just the sheer cost. It's an expensive way to cook a turkey. Plus, you're limited in size. There are large cookers, but then you're talking more oil. So, but anyway, it tasted great. I will tell you that. It was fantastic. Better than it tastes in the oven. I can assure you of that. And Jonelle's a great cook and makes a wonderful oven turkey. But man, those deep fried ones that was all that. Here in Florida, especially in the Keys, Thanksgiving is often celebrated with seafood. I did that once. We did fish and scallops and stone crabs and lobster, because, by the way, stone crabs and lobster are in season during Thanksgiving. Shrimp, what else? Smoked mullet, stuff like that. It was delicious. And we did it one time, and I'm almost sure it probably included key lime pie as a dessert. But I really go back to the traditional side. I think I'd much rather do turkey and mashed potatoes. I'd be really happy with just turkey, mashed potatoes, and green beans, to be honest with you. I'm making myself really hungry. So anyhow, it's right around the corner. That's our next 2 big events. And then right after that, what happens? Yeah, Christmas. You better get started. I'm not kidding. You might as well just go on and get started. I mentioned the windy weather earlier in the podcast. I have to say I am happy that November is upon us. I'm happy that we're headed toward December. I'm happy with winter. It's time for those of us living in the Keys to celebrate the fact that it's no longer 85 at night and 95 during the day, with the humidity running at about, pushing it up another 10 degrees. So feels like we're 105 to 110 in some cases, a lot, in a row. Winter's good down here. It was a hot summer. That's the hottest I can remember. I was asked that the other day. Do you think this is as hot as it's been? I answered yes, as hot as I can remember it ever being. And I think it might have seemed worse because of a lack of rain. We really did not get the summer rains that we've gotten in the past. And if we did, it came all at once in one day, and then we went 5 or 6 days with no rain. So it was very bizarre. And I am curious to see how the winter goes this time around, because the last time winter was very, very wet. But wintertime, humidity is getting lower. It's nice to be outdoors. You're not sweating when you move. I mean, even when you breathe. I still haven't gotten out the blue jeans or the long sleeve tees yet, but that shouldn't be too far off. Oh yeah, one other thing. The water temperatures, finally close to normal for this time of year. On the water yesterday, I had a reading of 78 in Largo Sound and as low as 75 degrees in one of the canals that leads out to the Atlantic Ocean. So that was quite the surprise. Now, if we can just get rid of the wind. I mentioned a couple of new fishing lures I want to try. Not yet, obviously. It's really out of control. I got this new little mini soft plastic thing that looks so great. Gary and I did throw them around for a little bit. We got a couple of kudas on it right away, but this thing is so small and so tiny, they would get popped off. And I'm not going to use them with wire. That's not the game plan. These are really intended for snook and snapper in the bushes, and the kudas, like I said on the last podcast, they just ruled. We could not get away from them. They seem to have moved in. They seem to really like this time of year and the weather and wind and that kind of stuff. But I'll be trying in a little bit to get that done. I also have tied a couple of new flies that I think will work for bones, and I'm dying to try those out. So we'll get into that. Don't worry. This wind can't last forever. Or can it? I hope not. Did you see the new addition to Yeti? Oh, the Yeti line. When I first got my first Yeti cooler, they only had coolers, and they had about 5 of them. And they were all what I call boat size. There was a smallish one, a medium one, a bigger one, and a huge one, like a coffin. That's all they had. Very expensive. We were all like, what? And then they were kind enough, being a fishing guide, to make me a ridiculous deal. And I tried it. The regular, I guess you'd call it like the one that would fit under the seat of a center console or I don't know what the cord is on it, but big enough. Thing's built like a refrigerator. And when you put ice in it, you could open it up 2 days later and the daggone ice was still in there. It was impressive, to say the least. And then they branched out into glasses and thermos type items and bags, insulated bags, backpacks. They got all kinds of stuff now. Yeti just went crazy. Still considered pricey, but I think the quality is excellent. There are a few knockoffs. You can try them. I like Arctic does pretty. It's RTIC, pronounced Arctic. They do a really good job, and the coolers are very similar. But I don't know. I'm just an old Yeti fan because that's where it started. No other reason. Anyway, have you seen their new item? Yeah, they have a martini shaker. I'm not kidding you, a martini shaker. It is a Yeti martini shaker. It's available in like 4 or 5 colors. I guess white, blue, green, what else? Red, orange maybe. I saw several colors. Yeah. So in other words, a mixer, a shaker for mixing. And even with its own built-in strainer on top. Now, what I find interesting about this, you put ice in that and you shake a martini, the ice is bruised and kind of goes away. Well, in this case, it's not going to go away. That's really, so the next drink you make, you're not going to be dumping as much ice in it, and it's already going to be cold. It's going to be really cold inside. So I was thinking about how cool that was. I also like to make painkillers, and I shake them in that. I like the mix of a painkiller when you do the orange, pineapple, coconut, water, that kind of stuff together. I like it better when it's shaken. It's tastier. Anyway, so there. I mean, honestly, they've taken shaken not stirred onto a whole new level. They might want to call one the Bond or 707. Yeah, right. 007, right? Something like that. Anyway, it's pretty cool. So check it out. I went online and found them. They ain't cheap. I think they were like $59 for these things. But then again, a good martini shaker is not cheap either, if you look at the glass ones or the high quality metal ones. So there you go. Something to add to your arsenal next time you're going to go out on a picnic or you're going to go island hopping. Let's see what's next on. Oh, I love reading. Yes, I wrote that real big on the pad. I love reading. It falls somewhere in the top 5 things that I like to do. And I have been very bad about not reading enough lately. And lately means in the last 4 months or so. I recently found a copy of Jimmy Buffett's novel called A Salty Piece of Land. I was visiting a bookstore down in Tavernier, and I was wandering around just staring at what they had. And it was on a table. And I thought, I've never read that. And I think it came out back in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. 01 to maybe I could look. I don't have the book here in my hands, but the copyright's early. I just missed it. I didn't see it. It's a thick book. It's a novel. So I got it. And I started reading it. And I'm like, man, I really, really miss reading, which is why I jotted that down in the notepad. I also went and charged up the battery on my Kindle. After my phone, your phone, if you stay on your phone at night, I wake up like at 1 o'clock in the morning till 2, and then I wake up from 3 to 4, kind of nonsense. So what do? I stare at the phone, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which is now called the X, whatever little newsy thing or story comes up, I read it, makes myself tired and I go to bed. Well, the phone report came up a few days ago and it said, you spent 4.6 hours today I'm like, what? I was like, that's bad. And then and I looked back they have those little reports. I looked back and I was like 3 hours, 2.5 hours, 5 hours. Okay, this is asinine. You should not be doing this. And you're not really making headway at all. Learning, consuming, and books do that. Books teach you things. And I love reading books, and I can't believe I got that far off of it. So I've charged the Kindle up. That'll be my night reading because it's got a backlit screen. I can turn it on, not wake up the missus or the cats, and read a few chapters till I fall asleep. And I think that'll be healthier for me than looking at social media right now, considering what all is happening in the world. I think it'd be much more fun to read a book. Just saying. So I really want to try to get to a point now where I'm really consuming the books. And the Kindle is a wonderful thing because Jonelle reads about a book a week, which means she downloads them and we have a family account. So she has a whole bunch of books in genres that I'm interested in anyway. So that also gives me the advantage of being married to an avid reader who also likes to use the Kindle. And since she reads about a book a week, I got some serious catching up to do. My favorites are mystery novels. Set in the tropics, especially if they're part of a series. Any recommendations are welcome. If you have read something interesting, it doesn't necessarily have to be tropic, but if it's a really good series book with a main character, a mystery type novel, something that I can start with book number 1 and work to however many books have been written, that's what I'm really looking for. I love that kind of book, but I really like it if it takes place in the tropics, Florida, South Texas, Lower California, and then anywhere in the tropic worlds of the Caribbean or whatever. And I don't mind if the person moves about to solve a mystery and runs up to Chicago or whatever. That's fine too. But I really do like the ones that are set in the tropics. Let's see, what's next on the list? Speaking of Buffett, the new album on vinyl is due any day now. I'll be sure to include a review here next week. It's a double album. They have a pre-released 5 songs so far. I got to tell you, he just got better and better at his craft. But that's what you do, I hope. If you haven't heard them, you can download them on most music streaming sites. The new album is called Equal Strain on All Parts. That's something his grandfather said when he was going to go take a nap in the hammock. Equal Strain on All Parts. I like that. That became the title. Bubbles Up is one of the songs, beautiful and a timely message from Jimmy. You know, I mean, it really is. It's bizarre that song came out and he passed away, and the song is so meaningful in that regard. Let's see, My Gummy Just Kicked In. That's a hilarious title. Something that Paul McCartney's wife said at a party out loud. Jimmy noted it and then made a song out of it. And by the way, Paul plays bass on that song, so that's a first. That's really cool. Like My Dog is the third song. That was written by Scotty Emmerich and Harley Allen. Sung originally by country music artist Billy Currington. It's just a funny song about how your dog is just better than having a girlfriend or a wife. Like my dog, you know. Why don't you like me like my dog? And listen to it. It'll make you laugh. Even the ladies will laugh. Mozambique. Okay, who remembers that one? The song Mozambique. Boy, this is a test. If they put this on Jeopardy, nobody would get it. Bob Dylan, 1976. That's when that song came out on one of his first albums, first rock albums. Yeah, Mozambique. I can't believe he made it, and it sounds great. I listened to it. I thought, well, they did a good job. University of Bourbon Street. This is one of those lighthearted Jimmy Buffett type things, co-written with Will Kimbrough and Mac McAnally. This is basically about being educated on Bourbon Street instead of going to college. So he calls it the University of Bourbon Street, and that would have been a classic in concert. I guarantee it. Of course, it's never going to make it there, but that was my thought about it. I thought, boy, this would have been great in concert. So there's a little catch up on the Buffett album. Let's see. Good food. Oh, yes. Let's talk about good food. That was a big part of our time with the visitors that we've had over the last month. Man, the Modi's Inn was busy. Well, they didn't all stay here, but it was still busy. They were here a lot. They were here. We did barbecues and cookouts and, you know, and just general get together and laughing it up stuff. So, but anyway, that was a big part of last month, was going out to dinner. And heck, dining out was a big part in the Keys, from Key Largo all the way down to Key West. That's what people do. They go out to eat. And on that note, I just want to give a big shout out to a couple of places that we are regulars at, and it's just, you know, starting with the Fish House. I got to give a big shout out to the Fish House. Let's just put it that way. They're never-ending good service. It's just amazing. Not to mention the food, but the good service at both the bar and at tableside is just great here in the Keys. It's great to have someone around every few minutes to check on you and to make sure that you've got water in the glass and you've got drinks and that everything is going on good at the table. And I really, really like that. And of course, the food is spectacular. That's the other good part about it. So, and my friend Gary is no longer a cobia virgin. He's been waiting to try a fresh piece of cobia for quite a while. It just seemed to miss no matter when he visited Florida. Either it wasn't in the restaurant, someone wasn't catching it, or it just wasn't around. And lo and behold, they had fresh cobia one night when we went, and he finally got his fresh piece of cobia, and he was duly impressed. As he put it, his dream came true. And it met his expectations. Cobia will. If you haven't tried cobia, you should. It's really, really good. We also dine on fresh stone crab claws and Florida lobster. And at one point, I had the most delicious grilled swordfish steak I believe I've ever had. Also, hats off to Ziggy's and Mad Dogs. Yes, it has become a horrible addiction. And now it's becoming a horrible addiction with our friends. Hey, what's not to like? The steaks, pork chops, and seafood are out of this world, and they certainly were this past few weeks. Impeccable service. They even garnished Jonelle's iced tea with an orchid. Now that's classy. I love it. This is one of these places that I still find hard to believe, and I did not go until we moved here. I knew where it was. I've driven by it a zillion times, just did not know what was going on behind those doors. It doesn't look like much from the road. It just doesn't. And it is, you know, white tablecloths, candles, waiters and waitresses that are at your side at a moment's notice. You can pause and eat slowly, or you can eat quickly and leave. It's just they make you feel right at home in the place, and the food is just beyond compare as far as I'm concerned. Anywhere in the Keys, it's really incredibly good. So yes, it's become a bad habit. We'll be going back. We don't need guests in town to go do that. Oh yeah, my birthday's coming! Yay! Let's see. I just made this last little note here. We are now on our own again. It's quiet here at the house, and our shy little cat Annabelle has come out of hiding. But I'm sure there will be other guests. After all, it's getting cold up north. Very cold. Have a wonderful week, and please spend some time outside. Thanks much for listening. A heartfelt thank you to all the listeners that have supported my podcast over the last couple of years. If you enjoyed listening, please tell a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The Facebook page is Catch You Outdoors. The website is catchyoutdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts and a schedule of what's to come. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.